Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much for the introductions. And thank you, everyone, for coming. So, Translation Commons, I get a lot of questions, so I'm here to answer quite a few of them. Translation Commons is a nonprofit online community for language professionals for our industry. So, what we are trying to encourage is cross-functional collaboration. I will give you a little bit of the history, but in our industry, as you know, we have very, very specific sectors like the linguists, the engineers, the professors, the terminologists, and sometimes they're all in silos. And we find that a lot of the times we hear engineers saying, well, can we not speak to translators? And then translators say, why didn't they ask us? So the aim of the community is completely open, and let's start talking between the sectors, the diverse sectors. So at the moment, Translation Commons has got just under 4,500 members, and I will tell you where they are and how we meet and everything in a minute. So when you go to our website, we're trying to explain what Translation Commons is. And it is a community that belongs to all of us. So whether you're a linguist, a terminologist, a PM, an engineer, a student, a professor, you're part of this, even a language teacher, you're part of our industry. So how can we all get together and then create an environment where we can share information, share knowledge, share data, share resources? Also, where can we learn things? But each of us are both students and teachers at the same time because we are a community of equals. And this is the concept behind creating Translation Commons, where we share tools, we demonstrate tools, we allow people to use free tools, and we share all the resources. I'll tell this one. So when we were trying to conceptualize how this platform, website, online environment would be, Jean came with the idea that you could, divide our industry in the translate, share, learn, our community, because there are certain things we need to know about translation. There are certain things we want to share, and then there are things that we want to teach and learn. So these are the three modules that from the very beginning have been the backbone of the Translation Commons platform. So, Translation Commons didn't happen in a vacuum. It started a long time ago, and it started here. And IMUG events, networking events, were one of the very, very first ones that we started talking about a community. And, just before the networking, when everybody was saying what their issues is, it was all together coming, and we decided at some point, let's do something about it. So I wrote an article. I posted it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn Pulse picked it up. It went to everybody who had translation localization in their profile. So it actually had a good outreach. And what we did is we were trying to say, can we work together in a collaborative commons environment and help our industry thrive? And the response was amazing. So immediately after that, we thought, okay, let's try to do something here. If the response is so big, it means there is a need here, and we're just now tapping into it. Of course, we need to streamline it. So we started a LinkedIn group, and it's actually very good that we're here because LinkedIn was the medium that actually allowed our community to thrive and to have the 4,500 members. It was the perfect community for our industry. So in 20 days, our LinkedIn Translation Commons group had 1,000 members. Now that's unheard of. So if that wasn't a sign that there is a need here, that people are coming because they understand the concept and they're ready for it. So we used the LinkedIn environment, the group, to have all our conversations for the last couple of years. And from these conversations and discussions, there were quite a few things that came through. So in 2015, we realized it has to be a nonprofit, it has to be free, it has to be open. So we filed for a nonprofit application, and in October of 2015, we've got approved not only as a nonprofit, because nonprofits are many, usually they're foundations, but we actually got public charity because when we described what we're trying to do and how global the nonprofit is, actually the IRS gave us public charity status, which was amazing. So a lot of discussions within the LinkedIn group brought freelancers together, and one of the very, very first things that they said was, well, we don't have mentors. And when you're a freelancer, you can't find a mentor. So what can we do about that? So through discussions, a few people got together. That was our first working group. And it was in 2015, and it started with 6 people, and it has grown to 100. And they did a survey to see, do we really need mentors, or is it just us saying this? So they opened up the survey. It was going on for about 6 months, and they have done all the analysis. I'll tell you a few more things about the mentoring program. So in 2016, at the beginning, we felt that this is it. We have to have an advisory board who is going to be representative of different sectors from our industry. They're going to be in touch with the community in large. They understand the concepts, and then we can all work together to see how we're going to do this online platform, because it's 2006. We've been talking about it for 2 years. We got to sit down and start creating a platform. And that's where, the advisors came in. And Jean was, again, one of the very, very first ones to join. So again, in 2016, once, we got things going and the conversations, and a little bit of the word got out there, we were approached by some universities in Europe. The Econo project was a project that was created in 2004. They got about $1 million euros, from the Leonardo da Vinci grant. And it was a consortium of 15 universities that got together to create certain modules, which I'll tell you again a little bit later, on helping professors and students learn CAD tools and sharing the data and the training kits. Well, that went offline in 2010. And they approached Translation Commons and said, can you host us? And they were in Typo 3, all the material. So you can understand why it took us a whole year to host them. But anyway, Ecolo is now online, and I will show you that later. In August, we started with the website. So we started simple, trying to do, the 3 modules. And we have been working on that nonstop since then. It changes every day. Jean has a whole technical section that he will explain a lot more about the website. And it's a continuous development, as you know. And finally, in 2016, we helped Lockworld create the community tracks for the conferences, because we felt that the community concept is very, very important. This is a gathering of the community in these conferences. We should have the community tracks as well. And Lockwood was very eager to instigate the community track, and they have been very, very successful. So in 2017 was a very, very busy year. From, again, the LinkedIn discussions, we started calling the working groups think tanks, because everybody felt that a think tank is different from a working group in the sense that, it brings information and it creates discussions. It creates brainstorming. It creates opportunities that you can go different ways. So one of our think tanks is the technology think tank, which is dedicated to open source in a big way. And we got together, and we're meeting, the technology think tank is meeting every month. And one of the projects that came out of the technology think tank was a partnership with Alan Melby's LTAC, which has been doing the LinPort interoperability project, which is containers to be able to convert between the various automation tools. And that project had kind of stagnated for a little while. So Alan Melby brought it to us and said, let's partner together and let's revive it. Let's put it out in the open community, and let's try to make this work. The mentoring guidelines is the result of 100 freelancers working in the mentoring think tank, 20 of whom are the writers and editors. And they came up with the mentoring guidelines that were published in 2017. The Interpreting Technology think tank created its first survey. The website was piloted by 2 universities, the University of Leeds and the University in the UK and the University of Texas in the US. The University of Texas piloted the Translate module. The University of Leeds with their students piloted the Learn module. It was all very successful. And finally, Lockworld donated to Translation Commons a booth, both in Silicon Valley and Barcelona last year. And out of that interoperability project, we became also partners with Gala because they have the topic project that is going now on, which is an open source API for interoperability also. And it's very, very close with Limport, and actually quite a lot of the Limport project is going to be the basis for the topic project. So we're working together with them. A very few things about the mentoring think tank. I've already mentioned that we had a lot of participants in the survey that we did. It was done through LinkedIn and SurveyMonkey. Thank you, LinkedIn. It has been the best medium. About 100 members, 20 of whom are writers and editors, have created an 80-page document. It has been very, very successful. They have been congratulated by many people, but the fantastic news came in Lockworld, Silicon Valley in November, where I was approached by an LSP in Canada who is also a nonprofit, and they have a whole mentoring program. And she said to me that I was looking to do all of this by myself, and then I came across the mentoring guidelines, and it was all done for me. So they have taken it on board, and they're also coming on board and helping us with the next iteration where we need to, update it. We have left it out in the community for comments. We've had a few comments. We need now to update it and to add some more sectors. So this is where we are with the mentoring think tank right now. The technology think tank started about December of 2015, actually was the first meeting. And since then, they do monthly meetings. There are representatives from all the major open source tools that we have at the moment in our industry. So we have Apertum, Omega T, Moses, Okapi, LTAC for Limport and Mojito. We have Emtra, Dumatica. We have Translate 5 and a couple of others that have recently joined. And we also have other people in the industry who have been in open source projects, not necessarily working in one now, but with experience with standards and so on. So the technology think tank has a few small projects, and we'll be talking a little bit later, but the main objective is to ensure that the few open source projects that we have are catered for, people know about them, and that we get feedbacks to start communicating and discussing what we can do more for these projects. The Interpreting Think Tank is a very, very busy LinkedIn group with 262 very active members. And when I say active, I mean really active. I had to switch them off. It was continuous messages. They have the objective of creating a survey, which they have just done over the summer. They're creating the analysis now and conclusions, but at the same time, they have started talking to various new interpreting technology platforms. There's quite a lot out there right now, and nobody was able to, understand the technology behind some of them. There is no categorization for some of these platforms, so they're all trying to read through the lines. They're interviewing the people, and then they're writing reports. And these reports then are getting published. I think at the moment they have 2 on the website that have been published, and they also post on LinkedIn. The Econo Revival, as I said, it was 15 universities. they had 3 modules that they created: the Econo Re for resources, the Ecolo Train for training kits, and the Ecolo Media for multimedia. Now, in the resources, they had actual files, different files that our industry and our translators use in order to have readily available material to teach the students. Because of copyright issues, the universities cannot just go to the internet and pick up a file. So the whole Ecolo Re consisted of these files, which allowed these universities to readily use the material. We are in need of more of these files. So we reach out to the various translation buyers and we say, if you do have files that are difficult or are different, please give us these files so we can train the students. This is the difference between the Ecolo back then and the Ecolo now, that we have a whole community that we can reach out and ask for help. The Ecolo Train is the training kits, and professors back then had created small training kits that both students and professors and freelancers, it has always been very popular with freelancers, can go through and learn very, very quickly certain basic IT, basic technology, basic automation tools, certain specific tools perhaps, and so on and so forth. So these need to be heavily updated because the screenshots are very old, and we're working on this right now. And finally, the student involvement. We are changing the Ecolo to include the students from the very, very beginning. Of course, 15 years ago, our students were completely different than what they are today. And today, the students need to be involved in these projects from the early on. So this is a very, very big program that we have in Translation Commons. So Jean will show you a few things about the website.
Yes, so we have a few slides about the website, and then we'll jump to a live demo. So you can reach the site at translationcommons.org, and as Janet said earlier, it's basically organized in 3 areas. One is translate, share, and then learn. Half of the content on the site can be accessed freely, but the other half needs you to have an account. So it just takes 5 minutes, it's pretty fast. You just go fill up the form, and then there's a backend behind, which is Google Suite for nonprofit. So you will get an email, translationcommons.org, and then that account is basically used to access all the resources on the website. So either the apps or the wikis and the forums. Well, when I first met Janet to talk about Translation Commons, so one of the ideas we discussed was, hey, what should we do in terms of tools? I think when you're new to localization, it's not always obvious to know where to start, where to find information. So we thought that Translation Commons should be a place where you can just go and see a list of tools, ideally try them. It would be very easy, right? And maybe you would run like small projects for localization. So we started at looking at open source projects, see what was available. And one thing we noticed is that most of those tools usually either needs to be installed or like application like web apps that requires database, all those kind of stuff. So for someone who is not technical, that is not something you can use right away. So we say, oh, we need to host those apps. And so that's basically what Translation Commons is doing right now. And so it gives you quick access to those tools in like kind of a self-serve manner. So that's basically a list of the tools we have right now. So Amara, it's a really nice open source project that you can use to localize subtitles on videos. We also have like free machine translation with Aperture, Pootle for the CAT tool, and Translate5 for proofreading. In addition to that, we thought that, okay, I mean, open source is great, it's free, and it's really about the community, which is what we wanted to build with a Translation Commons. But at the same time, if you already work, in the industry, you also need to know some tools like proprietary tools that are usually a little bit as more feature and are things that you would use day to day. So Janet got licenses for MemSource. So for people who are interested, they can just go and ask to use those license, and Deja Vu as well. XCM, yeah, that's probably gonna go. Then the second is share. So here the idea is really, well, I mean, again, super important to learn about the tools, the process, but there's all this aspect when you're working on localization and internationalization, which is things you cannot really know. You need to, I mean, I work for Pinterest, and what I like over there is that, we have this internationalization team with people coming from different countries. And if you have a question about something specific to a culture, you can just go reach out, and then you will get this answer. So for me, it's about that, like share, really building this community where you can ask your questions, especially when you start, or if you're a little bit isolated in your company, that's not something you can get easily. So here you would find like forums. You can also see resources and also contribute as well. And then for people that are a little bit more evolved, you can go in the think tanks to try to contribute to some initiatives. And the last one is Learn. So it's basically where you can find courses for localization. The backend is Google Classroom, so kind of standard stuff. But yeah, over there you will find different things you can look at. And it's also where the Econo project is hosted. And yep. So yeah, that's just like high-level architectural diagram. Is just to say that we are hosting a bunch of applications. So it's actually not that simple to have all those things together. So we actually partner with a company that's called Palmseed. They are based in Spain, and they are the ones that are taking care of deploying WordPress and all the different apps. So today we have like 10 apps. It's a mix of Linux and Windows in terms of hosting. So for Windows, we got non-profit licenses. So that allows us to run Deja Vu and OpenTM. And yeah, on Linux it's kind of standard stuff. So Amara, Pertium, all those guys, they're running in Docker containers. And you need to also maintain the MySQL database and those kind of things. Big part of the work was to do the single sign-on integration. So get the Google G Suite integrating with all the apps so that you can access them and have authentication and authorization in those. And yeah, we're gonna jump to the demo.
So when you first come to the website, we created this slogan. Some of you, maybe Joe, the older ones here, will remember back then in the 90s where every email had a little green tree at the bottom saying, be kind to the environment, don't print this email. Because back then everybody was printing 5 copies of emails. And it became a movement basically. And nobody printed. Eventually, people didn't print. So we created this logo to work exactly the same way. It's not company specific, it's not translation commons specific, it is industry specific. We're saying to people that the digital globe is dependent on translators, because without translators, you can't understand. You have to speak another language. So we're trying to put the word out there and increase the visibility of our industry. You can download it if you want and put it under your signature or pass it on. So as Jean said, when you go there, you sign up. Once you have signed up, you get to the dashboard. Each person gets a dashboard. And of course, it's work in progress. So not all of these are completely done. But you can see we're catering for community, which we hope to have, the groups that everybody is involved in there. And then we're catering for the individual. So we have in the individual, we have a profile which is active and a volunteer log that people can say, I worked in this working group for so many hours this month, or so on and so forth. We also have all the access, direct access to all the G Suite applications. And further down, you can see we have the courses that somebody has attended, the courses that they created. And if you click on My Contributions, you can see all the things. There's the drop-down menu that will show you everything that you have uploaded to Translation Commons, whether it is a link or whether it is a document or whatever it is, it's going to be there in your dashboard. So the dashboard is working. You can see on the top there is the modules, translate, share, and learn, that you can go through them. But when you're in your dashboard, it's about what you want to do with within the website. So if you want to translate, it'll take you to translate, start a translation. But if you, yeah, it'll take you to the, yes, thank you. If you do share, for example, it will give you the uploader. So you can then here put the links or the files, upload the files you want. And then finally, if you click on the learn, it will give you the option to either create, to join a private, because some professors in assignments may want to have a private course, or even other freelancers that do a private course, which is free. Everything has to be free on the website. But they may want to be have a small group, in which case they will have the private course. Or you can create a course. And I also want to show you at the bottom, when you scroll, you get the news and you get the roadmap. So we try to keep all the members aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it, so as we're going along. And finally, a lot of the universities are starting to give us their logos further down a little bit, where they want their students to know that this is a site that you can go. So we have on the bar, we have the members. You can see we only have 838 members, although I did say to you in the beginning we have 4,500. The 4,500 members are in the LinkedIn group. And together with the other think tanks, it's about 5,000 members on the LinkedIn groups. On the website right now, we have mostly students, professors, and the working groups. So the conversations are still happening in LinkedIn. That is the medium that the freelancers are very active, and they retain the Translation Commons concept within that. But on the website, they come and they, put their hours down, they give the assets and so on. Also, a lot of the website is completely open, but because of the very complex architecture we have, certain aspects of the platform cannot be open to the public. So you would have, that's why you need to become a member. So for example, Translate, if we go to Translate, you will see that you need to be signed in to be able to access the various tools. So again, we have categorized them, and each category in the future may have more tools, but at the moment, these are the tools that are fully functional on our website. So Amara is a great subtitling free open source tool. And when the students of the University of Texas were using it for the very first time, there was one student, she actually wrote a testimonial there. She says, "This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I had no idea. I love this." And this is a person that didn't even start as a translator, wanting to be a translator, but is in love with our industry. So moving on faster so we can do the rest. Let's go to share. Of course, if you sign in, you'll be able to explore all these tools and actually work with them. So in the share, we have the think tanks, which is things that have come through the community. They said, we want to do this, and we got together and created the think tank. But we also feel, in order to be extremely inclusive, that we need to address the fact that we're not the only initiative, the only community in our industry. There are a lot of good initiatives, nonprofits. So if you click on initiatives, you will see that it'll take us, can you click on the actual, yeah, there. It will take us to, no, it took us to the community think tank. No, we want to go to share initiatives. Yeah, that's a glitch, that one. If you do it, yeah, sorry. One glitch there. So these are all nonprofits and groups that are out there in the industry. A lot of them you recognize: Translators Without Borders, Women in Localization, Red Tea, Linport, Mentoring. Some of them are ours. and Adapting and Developing Talent, which is a Lock World initiative. So we approached these initiatives and said, we can give you, a link. So you'll have, if you put your mouse over any of them, it turns out to their logo. If you click any of them, it will take you, if you click, for example, this one, it will take you to Women in Localization. And at the bottom, it'll have the link to their website. Some of them don't have a collaboration platform. So we actually have offered them to create one for them. And 2 or 3 are right now, we're creating one for them. One of them is the Endangered Languages project, which is on the bottom right. If you click on that one, and then on the bottom, it will say that it has a link to the page. And that will take you to the working group page template for the endangered languages, where they have a forum, they have a calendar, they have tasks, the full works basically for them to work. If we go back to Learn Now, we have the Learning Center, the Translation Hub, and the Ecolo Wiki. So let's go first to the Learning Center, which is where all the courses are. This is basically using Google Classrooms in the back, and the projects are, the courses are there. We have, if you click on the video tutorials, these are all free links to videos that are educational or you're learning something. And there are links to articles that you learn things on the top. And then, yes, there's a lot of videos already. And then if you click back, if you go back to the Learning Center, or from the top, we can go to the Translation Hub. The Translation Hub is all about links. So we have different categories, tools, resources, and for business. If you open any of them, it'll have a lot of links. And this takes you to these websites that have done a fantastic work for all these free resources. So we're trying to basically organize all these free resources that are out there in our industry. So if you know of any free resource, all you have to do is go to the uploader on the dashboard and give us the link and give us some instructions. It should go under terminology, or it should go under other tools, and we will put it up there as long as it's free. And finally, under the Learn, we have the Ecolo. So I want to show you a little bit of why we need help with the Ecolo. At the moment, we have a large group of professors who are actually working to find what needs updating. And once we actually manage to get the whole list finished, which we're very close to, we will need then absolutely everybody to help us recreate it and update it. And I'll give you an example. I'll just do this quickly. Let's go to the Ecolo Train, which is the training kits. And let's go to the ICT skills module. There's a lot more modules. And let's go to the deals with text editing, covering a wide range of topics. So formatting, document quality control, characters. So let's go to formatting. You can see all of this information and the screenshots. The screenshots need to be updated. Some of the information needs to be updated. So there has been a lot of work that has been put into these this Ecolo project. And I think that would take me to the end of the demo. I think there's a few more things that I wanted to show you. For example, the help wiki. We created a wiki for the help, and we're putting all the instructions for all the tools, because we find that, no matter how condensed you put some instructions, you really need to explain that this is an educational. We want to learn something new. So we felt that we need to put a lot more information. And as people are using the website, they may find some user cases that we haven't thought of, something very simple. So we want that feedback. We want people to be able to contribute to how they use the website and what solutions they have found. So please, come forward and, be part of the community. So what's next in Translation Commons? The first thing that we realized is that we have a fantastic advisory board and we have a fantastic, inner core of volunteers that we work together on a daily basis. And we're basically in the trenches. We're there within the community. But a nonprofit needs something different. We need a board of directors that can take us to that next level. That can find the sponsors, that can find, all the difficulties that, we can't do because, our skills are on the advisory level, not the board level. Also, we have found that we've had different mediums that were very, very successful for different sectors. So for the freelancers, the medium that they got them engaged in the community was LinkedIn. And the students and professors, the medium that got them engaged was the website. So we have been trying desperately to get LSPs and translation buyers to engage in the community because we need to be as diverse and all-inclusive. So we have found it difficult, and what we really, really want to do right now in 2018 is find those projects and the pain points that LSPs and providers have and translation buyers had and do something about it. So on the translation, on the LSP side, there are a couple of projects that have already stemmed up. For example, the blockchain research. How can we take the blockchain as a basis, not the Bitcoin, but the actual blockchain, and utilize it in our industry? Is it going to be smart contracts? Is it going to be data, from how the changes happen? We don't know. We're researching it now. And we need the LSPs, the technical people. We need the translation buyers, the technical people, to come together and put all our brains together and say, listen, everybody's using blockchain. Why aren't we? And how is the best way for us to use it? And unifying glossaries, and these are just two of the things that have already come from within LSPs, but perhaps there are more. So if there are LSPs here, please pass on the word to your colleagues, and let's get together. Engaging translation buyers, the biggest problem we have found in the last couple of years is confidentiality. On the one hand, they're very vocal about an issue, but when it comes to the details and when it comes to actually being part of the community, they have a lot of legal restraints from their head offices and their companies. So what we are trying to do for that is we're kind of side in parallel having an incubator where we can take those problems and discuss them within the community or pool resources from the community. And of course, as you can understand, we're a community not only of students, but of professionals and linguists. So we have the whole industry there at our disposal. So we can find solutions and we can brainstorm. And that's the whole idea when we're trying to create, mentoring and training programs, and we want to see the continuity of our industry. That is something that the translation buyers can very, very easily get involved. And finally, for the next year, 2018, we have the following projects. We want to work on the website on a volunteer infrastructure, how to create, the structure of how the volunteers work, the roles, the acknowledgement, and the automation. We want to streamline the working groups, and our working groups are not LinkedIn groups, they're not discussion groups, they are actually working groups. They have an objective. And we want to streamline the creation of these groups, the management of the groups, and the templates that we're providing for them to work on. And finally, we have had some interesting talks with all sorts of sectors of our industry. And one of the areas that we feel that needs immediate attention within our industry is Asia, whether it's India, whether it's China, it's Asia in general. And we need to engage students in the Translation Commons website. We need to, some professors have already expressed interest in exchange programs. And finally, we want to include them in our mentoring programs. We want to make sure that we are all speaking the same language when it comes to localization and translation. And something that I always know people always want to help, and I'm very, very grateful. So here's a few things of how you can help. And of course, you can all contact me anytime you want. Most importantly, if you have an idea, please come and talk to any of us. But basically, if you're a student or if you know students, we need help with the material update. We need help with the help wiki. We also love, to have help with social media. And if you're a professional, you can join our groups and contribute, or you can share your own ideas, help us facilitate you to create a new group, and just share your skills and share within the community. So that is the concept that we're trying to introduce to everyone. Everybody loves it. I hope you love it too and you join us. Thank you very much.
You run around with the mic. If you have questions, they'll have to share another mic there. Who wants to start? I was just going to remark that, we have, like 2,000 people on Meetup in the Bay Area for IMUG. Only about 400 of them ever seem to come to the pages or become members at one time. So the 80-20 rule still applies. So, it's and that you may be experiencing that in the between the LinkedIn group and who's actually on, and so it's still a good thing. I'm probably too close to that. So who has questions? Dave has a question.
So I had to run out at a couple of points to let people in that were latecomers, so I apologize if you already talked about this, but it was pretty impressive to me what you guys have accomplished. It must have been a huge amount of work. Was this all done by volunteers, or do you have some kind of budget for things like, hosting the website?
It's all work done by volunteers, except some of the development of the website done by Palmseed. Palmseed is also a volunteer, so they do donate a lot of hours, but they also get paid. And that is being paid privately by some of the volunteers. Couple of the advisors, basically. So we put, our money where our passion is. So far, we tried in the last year to create some opportunities for people to come forward and sponsor us. I have not been very successful in that, but then maybe that is not my forte. So I feel that we need a board of directors to help, create those opportunities for sponsorship, that we can create the income and, generate the developments of the website. As far as all the rest of the work is concerned, everything is done by volunteers, and I believe the model will stay like that unless in the future, we have so many sponsors that we can actually employ somebody to take care of the sponsors.
Questions?
Hi, I have a company called Polyglot, and we made a multilingual keyboard, but also besides that, we do translation and interpretation, and I'm starting to grow that part of the company. So I've been an interpreter for about 15 years, and I was looking into certification. So I'm interested in the courses you offer, and I wonder, because I look to become certified in California, in the state of California, before you become federally certified. They'll require like 40 hours of course work, specialized like in the medical field, or if you want to do legal. And I wonder, can you get credit for some of those courses that you offer?
It's a very, very good question. And true enough, the universities that are involved on our website give credit to the students. So for example, one of the use cases that we can have on the website with the universities is that they ask the students to do a translation of a page, and they get credit for that assignment. Now that is what we have so far. But as I have said many times, it's work in progress, and it's what the community wants. Whether there will be a time in the future, right now we do not have that, I believe that most of the certifications have to be done by bodies, official bodies, and we are not that. We are an open community where we share knowledge. So one of the things that I would like to do now that you're bringing to me is find any links that we can, so we can add to the translation hub all the links that we can then send people like you that need to know how to get all these credits. Where are there places that they can get the credits?
Thanks a lot. I actually just registered, so it works. It was fairly easy. Now I can remember my number because I was seeing it on the screen. I would like to ask you about like what is like the long-term vision. So you said there's a passion. There's like people like putting money into it. At some point, it's going to get harder. It's getting pretty big. I look at the infrastructure. It's scary. It's only going to get worse. So what is the vision? How is it going to be like sustainable? And what is like slowing you down right now? I want to say that I was looking. So I work on an LSP, and I'm like at some position at management, and I couldn't find, for instance, like a good selection for what is my role type, in when I was subscribing, which makes me figure that maybe not a lot of people have been like asking for that. And I think that we should be involved as LSPs. This is like crazy. We had like several attempts in the past. It has never worked. And I think like the area and a lot of what you have already accomplished means that this could actually take off. So what is the end game?
The vision of the united industry is honestly that in itself. Now, how it's going to, we started by saying the community itself has to decide where it wants to go. And we can't, put objectives, because then it's somebody's opinion that superimposes everybody else in the community. So we're very big in keeping that aspect alive. So when you hear us speaking about we did this and we did that, it's mostly the advisory board, and it's mostly to do things on the website that either together we have come together and thought we need this, or that people have come to us and said this would be good. Okay, but when it comes to the think tanks and the initiatives and the working groups, that's all generated from within the community. None of us said, oh, hey guys, who wants to do a mentoring program? It just came from conversations. Or who wants to do a technology think tank for the open source people? They got together. It just kind of, arose from within the community. But of course, as advisors, we want to think ahead, and you're right. Unless we find sponsorship, then at some point this is either going to stall, or we will have done enough to sustain it to a satisfactory level, which is my hope if we don't get the sponsors. But the whole idea in 2018 is to target, the people that can create a board of directors that will then sustain Translation Commons through the years to come with the sponsorships and events and all the negotiations that they do that are beyond me. Thank you.
So, yes, you mentioned that you are looking into doing research into blockchain. I never seen that together in the same sentence with translation. So I'm wondering what approach you have in mind.
Don't know, but we do know that we have data. We have a lot of data, and our data changes all the time. We also know that we have a lot of contracts, and the legal side of our business is very, very important. And we also know that we have a lot of transactions, financial transactions that are all over the world. Any LSP will tell you that they pay more in transfer costs to pay all the translators globally than any other industry. So we have the basis that we can perhaps look into. Is there a way? I'm not saying there is. We don't know how. We're just starting to say now we need to look into it, and we need the right people to look into it, because I can just perceive something, and I don't know if there's a basis to that.
Any more questions? Any closing words there, Joe? Actually, I've got a few closing words. There's a lot of food left. The last couple of years, the food disappeared before the presentations even started, but I think that's because we had a lot of starving Monterey Institute students that usually come up for this, and they're all on winter break right now, so there's none here. So, so please do take care of the food and wine, so we don't have to dispose of it.
Sure, you have no more questions. You just want to say wow, right?
Wow, it's amazing.
Thank you.
And that's, so say we all, right? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.